It's 2:34 PST, the 23rd of September 2025. 12 miles off Point Reyes, California, alarms rip through steel decks. USS Pennsylvania, an Ohio-class ballistic missile sub, snaps to battle stations. Sonar shows a second shadow at 200 meters depth, close enough to feel its screws. Not a ghost, an active Chinese Type 094 with 16 JL-3 tubes. On the plot, range 12.3 nautical miles from the coast, bearing steady, speed low, doors crack open, torpedo rooms flood, missile hatches slide. The water trembles. Pennsylvania counters quiet turns. Counter bearing, weapons warmed. Hydrophones across the coast confirm the track. Comms whisper to Pacific Fleet. Hostile posture. Deterrent procedure. In the black, the two hulls face each other like loaded springs. One click on the wrong circuit and the ocean becomes fire. Then a new sound. An English transmission from the Chinese boat conducting sonar tests. It keeps talking, rolling out technical jargon for minutes. The air feels thinner. Every sailor holds a breath as the clock crawls toward 3:41. The California coast looks calm. Fishing lights bobbing, container ships sliding south. Under that calm runs a hard truth. These lanes keep fuel, grain, electronics, and medicine moving. If they close, shelves thin, prices jump, and allies doubt who can still keep the sea open. That is why USS Pennsylvania patrols here, silent and unseen until tonight. The contact sits 12.3 nautical miles off Point Reyes, just outside the US line. That distance is legal cover, but the message is blunt. We can park a nuclear trigger at your door. The intruder is a Type 094 Gin class with JL-3 SLBMs, long range, multiple warheads, minutes to hit US cities. At 200 meters, its torpedo doors crack open and missile tubes flood. Those moves are signals, ready if you push us. For Washington, it's brinkmanship in home waters. For Beijing, it's leverage proof of reach, a bid to shape the next crisis before it starts. Pacific Fleet Command orders. Deter, document, don't shoot first. SOSUS hydrophones ashore triangulate the contact. Secure comms whisper updates. Pennsylvania edges to an offset angle, torpedoes warmed, countermeasures primed. One rash shot could light the fuse. Too soft a stance invites repeat visits. Inside the boat, calm voices ride the noise. The captain must choose. Shadow quietly and gather proof, or go loud with an active ping that could spook the target and blow the standoff open. Then the Chinese sub transmits in English, claiming sonar tests, and keeps talking. 17 minutes of strange technical details spill into the water. Intel teams record every hertz. This could be the gold they need on JL-3 and Gin-class habits. Two nuclear boats now stare at each other within earshot of California. Your call from that control room. Press 1 to fire or 9 to hold. Drop your number below and follow for what comes next. 2:40. Pennsylvania's sonar locks in. Propeller cavitation, hull chatter, faint electrical hum signs of a big, quiet boat. The contact holds steady. The captain orders, prepare to engage, not fire. Sensors sharpen. 2:42. Pennsylvania slides into a shadow course, slow, silent. A hunter tracking a hunter. Passive listening keeps stealth. Torpedo tubes are loaded, but warheads stay safe. Every move is measured. 2:45. SOSUS arrays flash updates. Shore teams confirm depth and track. Pacific Fleet watches. Then the contact bursts speed and turns closer. That's no test, it's a probe. 2:48. Pennsylvania fires a warning, acoustic pings, and a mock target track. Message clear, we see you. Back off. Risky sound travels both ways. The Chinese sub answers with decoys and missile tube vents. 2:51. Sonar techs call range 1.2 nanometers. The captain orders evasive posture and countermeasures ready. The crew runs, drills drilled into muscle memory, calm hands, steady voices. 2:54. A new English transmission. Conducting sonar calibration. No hostile intent. But the tone feels off too formal, stuffed with technical jargon. It drags on. 17 minutes, as if probing patience. 2:56. Range flickers as the Jin adjusts trim, holding a launch-ready posture. Pennsylvania answers with a gentle S-turn, forcing an off angle. Helm whispers corrections. Engineering trims pumps to keep noise under the sea's hiss. 2:57. Pennsylvania shifts depth and bearing, opening space while covertly pushing a sensor tag closer. The tag records the sound of JL-3 launch tubes flooding. That signature is gold. 3-5. For minutes, both boats trade posture and signals. Weapons are armed, none fired. The Pacific holds its breath in radio static and ocean noise. 3-8. A freighter's screws rumble overhead, masking both subs. Neither captain moves. When the wake fades, the Chinese boat emits one thin ping, almost a goodbye, and slides south at 4 knots. 3:12. Finally, the intruder turns out, venting wake, slipping away, no clash. But America gains a trove of data acoustic prints, calm style, JL-3 behavior. Ashore, analysts will forge a fresh fingerprint and a playbook for the next time a Jin creeps this close. The battle tonight was fought in silence and won through what was learned. 3:20. The tension doesn't fade. Pennsylvania's crew stays at battle stations, tracking every faint echo. The Chinese sub pulls south, but sonar now shows smaller contacts, likely drones or decoys. Each one could hide a sudden turnback. 3:23. The captain orders a defensive weave. Pennsylvania shifts a few degrees, reducing her profile while keeping the intruder in reach. The move sharpens arcs for defense and keeps firing angles ready if torpedoes come. 3:27. Sonar teams filter the noise. Some returns vanish harmless bubbles. Others hold steady. The risk is clear. If one is real, it could close to lethal range in minutes. A wrong call means losing initiative. 3:31. The boat's Mark 48 torpedoes are primed, tubes hot, guidance aligned. The crew knows if orders come, there will be no warning. Shots, only kills. But restraint rules. Fleet command demands proof before action. 3:35. The Chinese sub reappears at 3 nanometers holding parallel course. Not retreating, pacing, shadowing like a duel. Posture, pure and raw. Each side daring the other to move first. 3:40. Internal comms spark. Intel officers urge patience. Tacticians warn of encirclement. The captain balances both, eyes locked on sonar sweeps that could flip in seconds. 3:44. Suddenly, a high-pitched spike screams in headsets, one drone goes active, blasting pings. It's a provocation, forcing Pennsylvania systems to adjust filters, burning seconds. Was this cover for a test, or just noise warfare? 3:47. The captain orders countermeasures streamed aft, a shield of acoustic confusion. It buys time but signals readiness. The control room falls to whispers. 3:50. The picture sharpens. A U.S. Ohio class and a Chinese Jin class circling off California, drones scattering noise between them. Both nuclear armed, both knowing one misread could tip into disaster. 3:53. A sudden thermal shift rolls across the layer. Ranges smear, bearings wobble. The captain holds course, trusting training over noise. Patience is armor when steel cannot speak. The clocks feel louder. The standoff no longer feels like defense, it feels like the edge of war. If you think Pennsylvania should strike first, press 1. If you believe holding steady avoids catastrophe, press 9, and subscribe to follow how this duel unfolds. 3:58. Just as both sides hold their nerve, sonar operators catch something new. Faint, at first fast, shallow contacts skimming the surface. Not big subs, not decoys. These are smaller, quicker units. Autonomous undersea drones. 4. They move in tight packs, darting across bearings with unpredictable speed. Harder to track, harder to classify. If one packs explosives or advanced sensors, it could cripple stealth, and they're headed straight for Pennsylvania's position. 4-2. The crew switches tactics. Mark 48 are too heavy for such small targets. Instead, the captain calls for counter-drone responses, rapid noisemakers, and sharp maneuvering. Every adjustment is delicate. Too loud, and the Ohio's own location shines like a beacon. Too slow, and the drones close in. 4, 5. Sonar fills with static. 4, maybe 5 contacts slash through the water layer, forcing constant recalculations. The ship banks tighter, rudder angles sharp, ballast shifting. Inside, sailors grip consoles as the hull tilts. One drone streaks past the bow at under 200 meters, a reminder how thin the margin is. 4, 8. Then, the Chinese Jin-class shifts again, rising slightly as if to oversee the swarm. The message is unmistakable. Escalation. This isn't just a test anymore, it's a live demonstration of layered tactics, pairing a ballistic missile sub with fast autonomous hunters. 4:11. Pennsylvania responds. The crew launches a burst of deceptive noise, then a sudden dive. The sub sinks deeper, slipping beneath the swarm's layer, forcing drones to chase or lose contact. It's a gamble. The deeper you go, the narrower the escape. 4:14. The duel now shifts tone. This is no longer sub versus sub. It's old steel against new swarms, each move writing the playbook for wars yet to come. 4:18. Depth alarms echo as Pennsylvania steadies at 350 meters. The hull groans, but the dive shakes off 2 drones that can't track below the layer. 3 remain, darting close, their pings rattling through the control room. 4:21. The captain calls it engage counterattack. Mark 48 torpedoes are not aimed at the Jin class yet, but at the swarm. One fires, streaking ahead. A violent detonation erupts, water compresses, static roars, and one drone vanishes. 2 left. 4:24. The Chinese sub reacts, surging forward. Its screws churn, loud and defiant, as if daring Pennsylvania to strike directly. Sonar screams with overlapping noise, masking intentions. Was it moving to launch, or just posturing? Nobody knows. Seconds stretch into lifetimes. 4:27. A drone slips under Pennsylvania's keel. Depth charges could be in play. The captain orders a hard turn, ballast blowing fast. The boat tilts, metal shrieks. Sailors brace against bulkheads. The drone streaks past. Too late to adjust. Narrow escape. 4:30. Countermeasures blanket the water clouds of bubbles. Bursts of false echoes. The last drone slams into the confusion, chasing ghosts. The crew seizes the chance. One more torpedo launches, shredding the contact with a muffled boom. Silence returns. 4:34. Now only the Jin class remains. It's closer, less than 2 nanometers. Torpedo tube doors open again, a deadly mirror to Pennsylvania's own posture. 2 nuclear subs, each holding dozens of city-killing warheads, staring at each other point blank in the dark. 4:38. The captain's knuckles whiten on the periscope handles. Orders hover between restraint and survival. Fire first, and history brands this night as the start of nuclear war. Hold back, and risk being the one caught unready. Every man in the control room feels the weight. 4:41. Then the Jin class blinks first. It screws slow, torpedo doors clank shut. It turns east, pulling away at measured speed. Pennsylvania shadows briefly, confirming retreat. Relief floods the compartment, but tension lingers. This duel was seconds from the unthinkable. Tonight, steel, training, and sheer nerve held the line. If you think the U.S. captain was right to hold fire, press 9. If you believe he should have struck first, press 1 and subscribe to follow how close we came to the edge. 4:50. Silence settles, but it's the heavy kind that lingers after danger passes. USS Pennsylvania holds position, sonar sweeping the emptiness where moments ago the Pacific was alive with hostile echoes. The Chinese Jin class is gone, but the tension it carried remains. What matters most is what the U.S. gained. Every second of the standoff poured acoustic signatures into recorders. Propeller tones, ballast shifts, the unique sound of JL-3 tubes flooding. Communications, logs, captured phrase, patterns, timing, even the rhythm of Chinese command structure. Intelligence gold. The Navy will study this night for years. For Beijing, the message was clear. They could bring nuclear firepower within sight of California. For Washington, the answer was sharper. America can detect, shadow, and confront without flinching, even at the razor's edge. Both sides walked away, but both know the next time may not end as quietly. Strategically, it proves two things. First, that China is willing to push SSBN patrols into U.S. waters, signaling resolve and testing response. Second, that America's SOSUS network and Ohio-class readiness still hold the line. It was deterrence by presence, and it worked, but only just. The world will never read the classified details. For most, this night will be a footnote. But for the men who stood in the control room, watching ranges shrink and timers tick, it was the moment they felt history leaning on their shoulders. America holds the advantage in intelligence, but the margin is thinner than it looks. Autonomous drones, close-in patrols, and deliberate provocations are rewriting undersea warfare. Next time, the swarm could be larger. Next time, missiles might rise. Tonight, Pennsylvania survived. The sea stayed open, but the balance grows more fragile by the day. If you believe the U.S. should answer stronger next time, press 1. If you think restraint is the only way to avoid disaster, press 9. And subscribe to follow how this undersea chess match unfolds. The South China Sea, the 19th of July, 2025. The ocean looked calm, almost serene, as if time itself had frozen. But on board the USS Argonne, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, the illusion shattered in an instant. Radar operators, eyes locked on their glowing screens, picked up a sudden, violent shift. A Chinese Type 052D destroyer, hull number 174, surged from 18 knots to 30-inch under 90 seconds. That wasn't routine. That was aggression. Beijing had flipped the switch. The order was clear. Intercept the Americans, force a reaction, and broadcast the confrontation for the world to see. But there was one problem. The Americans weren't trespassing. The strike group was sailing 185 nautical miles from Chinese shores, international waters, where $3.4 trillion in global trade flowed every single year. And the Argonne wasn't alone. She was part of the USS Ronald Reagan Strike Group, a shield built to protect the world's sea lanes. Destroyers, cruisers, and the mighty aircraft carrier itself formed a moving fortress, bristling with power. At 8:34, radar confirmed the worst. The Chinese destroyer was locked on a collision vector, weapons range in just 14 minutes. Below Argonne's decks, 122 vertical launch cells waited a storm of SM-6 missiles ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. But silence filled the Combat Information Center. On the flight deck of the Ronald Reagan, operations shifted like a machine built for war. Aircraft were armed, destroyers repositioned, and nearby merchant ships carrying billions in cargo looked to one thing for protection: the resolve of the U.S. Navy. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was provocation. And the world was about to witness the first move in a dangerous game. 8:37 hours. The tactical picture snapped into razor focus. Argonne's SPY-1 radar painted the Type 052D with unforgiving clarity hull lines, weapons mounts, even the jitter of her fiery control arrays. Bearing steady, speed high. Time to weapons range. Under 14 minutes if she kept her nose hot. If the destroyer fired YJ-1818 second, sea skimming and cruel, they closed the last stretch in less than 4 minutes. Argonne's kill chain was already built: sensors, processors, shooters, every link humming. The captain asked one word: intent? The tactical action officer didn't blink. Aggressive vector. Recommend general quarters. The captain's reply was colder than steel. Hold. Measure their nerve. Around the flagship, the strike group shifted like gears engaging. On Ronald Reagan's deck, yellow shirts choreographed aircraft with fingertip precision. Screws and McFall slid outward, forming a hard, overlapping shield. Overhead, an E-2D Hawkeye traced lazy circles at 25,000 feet, its radar combing the sky and sea into a single living map. New contacts bloomed. Multiple fast movers pushing south off the Chinese carrier Shandong. JGO-15 second heavy, hungry, and climbing too slow. Ski jump launches meant trade-offs. Less fuel, fewer weapons, shorter legs. Still, they came, the first move in a Maneuver confrontation. Below the waves, something worse. Argonne's sonar team rode the acoustic layer and caught a smear of noise. A diesel-electric boat, likely a Type 039, moving too fast, too loud. At 80 nautical miles, she was already bleeding stealth, her signature smearing across the waterfall display like a confession. 41 merchant ships threaded the sea lanes nearby, hulls stacked with billions in cargo. The Americans adjusted their screen to keep commerce inside the umbrella. Steel guardians shepherding steel fortresses. Inside CIC, voices stayed level. Sectors assigned. Tracks correlated. Link 16 stitched every cockpit and bridge into one shared brain. No bravado, no wasted words. Just a calm that felt like a drawn bow. Across the line, the Chinese formation huddled tight line of sight calls, legacy radars, a fractured picture, predictable arcs, predictable mistakes. The clock kept eating distance. 13 minutes, 12, 11. The air boss cleared early launches. Cat crews snapped into rhythm, engines spooled. The storm was building quiet, disciplined, inevitable. 8:49 hours. The sky over the South China Sea hardened into a layered chessboard. AE-18E Super Hornets surged in. AESA cones sweeping arcs of air and sea. Link 16 fused cockpits and bridges into one mine. What one jet saw, all saw. Latency shaved to the bone. Then the quiet killers arrived. EAE-18 Graham Growlers slid on cold air. Alabama Q-99 pods whispering electricity. Chinese scopes flooded with ghosts. 4 contacts became 12, then 20, then none. Range 8 gate tricks and side lobe spoofs multiplied targets, and JCHAS 15 pilots chased phantoms through static. Their locks slipped, their comms stuttered. The Americans spoke less and knew more. Altitude stacked like armor. High cover at 35,000 feet. Hunters at 25,000. Night fighters stalking at 15,000. Overlapping arcs erased blind spots and boxed the battle space. Across the line, the Chinese formation bunched tight, bound to line of sight calls and aging glass. Predictable vectors in a digital war invite a single end. Below, the ocean yielded a louder truth. A Type 039 crept too fast, too shallow. At 8:51, she raised her snorkel to breathe, and the sea answered with a shout. On Argonne's waterfall display, the acoustic fingerprint bloomed range 15,000 yards. Course imperfect, fate precarious. If the balloon went up, an ASROC would be on her in seconds. Warhead and water hammer ending the guesswork. Merchant traffic threaded the lanes. 41 ships, billions in cargo, drawn safer under the American umbrella as the screen flexed and tightened. Controllers aboard Reagan parceled intercepts, fuel states, and time gone station with metronomic cadence. The battle now spanned air, surface, undersea, and the invisible spectrum. On each axis, initiative sat squarely with the strike group. The Chinese had sailed out to stage a spectacle. Instead, they found a storm already shaped around them, a fight defined by bandwidth, patience, and posture, rather than noise. The cameras would capture jets and wakes. The truth was numbers, timing, and trust. If disciplined networks dominate, press 1. If raw aggression can still break through, press 9. Comment your number and subscribe to stay on station. 8:56 hours. Inside Argonne CIC, the calm thinned to a blade. Console glow washed across focused faces as the plot tightened. The Chinese destroyer had shifted from broad search to fire control track. It wasn't subtle. It was the digital equivalent of pressing a loaded pistol to the carrier's chest. Beams pinned Ronald Reagan in a cold, invisible grip. Firing solutions rolled and refreshed. SM-2 and SM-6 assignments populated in crisp columns. Operators called bearings and ranges in clipped voices, while reporters captured every microsecond of hostile lock. Frequency, pulse width, dwell time, doctrine held, hold fire, measure intent. Build the case. Do not give the first shot away. On deck, the carrier's rhythm never faltered. Ordnance crews moved with quiet economy. Yellow shirts carved pathways through jet exhaust and heat haze. Out on the ring, McFall and screws tightened the wall. their aegis umbrellas overlapping until the sea itself felt roofed in steel. Then the snap. A J-15 broke formation, rolled and dove across a Hornet's nose in a thumping pass meant to rattle nerves and cameras. The American pilot didn't flinch. He inverted, slid behind the intruder, and let the tone sing in his headset 3 clean seconds of lethal certainty. One squeeze and the sky would write a different story. He didn't pull. Restraint isn't the absence of power, it's mastery of it. The J-15 yanked away, gamble spent. In CIC, heartbeat slowed by will alone. The logbook gained another page of proof. Aggression documented, escalation contained. For sailors watching from catwalks and hatches, the lesson was tactile. Strength was the held shot, the recorded lock, the formation that never blinked. The ocean waited, vast and indifferent, as men and machines threaded a line thinner than a wake. Controllers updated fuel states, lanes for recovery, and traps for contingencies. The group breathed as one organism, sensors and steel, doctrine and discipline holding a door open for peace without stepping back from it. In that moment, who truly won? If you believe discipline under fire is real victory, press 1. If you think bold provocation should rule, press 9. Comment your choice and subscribe to follow the next move. 9:03 hours. The Chinese believed they had set the tempo. They hadn't. From the deep, dark water west of the standoff, a Virginia-class attack submarine began to rise. For 8 days, she had shadowed the Shandong strike group without a breath of giveaway noise, mapping bearings, fuel states, and routine like a patient hunter memorizing a heartbeat. Now she surfaced by choice. Inside 6 nautical miles of the Chinese carrier, the sight landed like a verdict. A 7,900-ton shape broke the skin of the sea, black hull sluiced with foam, sail glistening, hatches sealed and inscrutable. Tubes and missiles were not on display. They didn't have to be. Presence did the speaking. For less than 2 minutes, she stayed there long enough for bridge wings to raise binoculars, long enough for phones to capture frames that would never make official news, long enough to make every officer understand the past week in a single breath. No radio call, no signal lamp. The message was the quiet itself. We were always here. If this were war, you'd be gone already. On Shandong's flag bridge, the calculus shifted. Their destroyer had painted an American carrier with fire control energy and found only documentation in return. Their JO-15 second had rushed south with cameras watching, burning fuel to climb, and losing options with every minute. Their diesel-electric boat had snorkeled under a watchful ear and been held at arm's length by people who never needed to announce it. And now this proof of proximity, proof of patience, proof of overmatch expressed without a trigger pull. Above, the JO-15 second circled on fumes. Skyjump launches had bought takeoff and sold endurance, and the bill had come due. They turned away one by one, defensive now, falling back toward the carrier's orbit. Across the box, Super Hornets held altitude blocks and tidy geometry, weapons safed, tone discipline unbroken. Merchant traffic threaded the lanes as the American screen flexed to keep commerce beneath its canopy. The carrier's cycle ticked on recovery's plan. Fuel ladders briefed, traps scheduled, while the submarine eased her ballast and slid back under the glare. Absence became louder than any broadside. By 9:23, Shandong herself began to withdraw. The official line would read, "Exercise complete." The unwritten truth traveled farther. In a contest measured by nerve, timing, and information, the quiet move had ended the argument. 9:30 hours. The sea lane stretched wide again, but no one aboard mistook it for peace. Calm after tension is never the same as calm before it. The Shandong strike group turned north, throttles eased, official channels declaring their exercise concluded. Yet for every sailor who had seen the spectacle unfold, the truth needed no communique. They had been out, watched, outflown, outmaneuvered, and outweighted. No missile had left its cell. No trigger had been pulled. Yet the ledger was heavy with evidence. Screens full of fire control locks, sonar tracks of a diesel boat gasping for air, radar plots of jets clawing sky with empty tanks, and above all, the memory of a submarine rising from nowhere only to vanish again. All recorded, all undeniable. The Americans had not simply shown weapons, they had shown discipline, the calm to absorb provocation, the patience to let the world see, the restraint to demonstrate strength without fire. This was not weakness. It was overmatch, disguised as stillness, dominance written in withheld shots, confidence spoken in silence. For the 41 merchant ships that crossed that corridor, carrying billions in trade, the difference was felt in cargo delivered, crews unshaken, schedules unbroken. For the region, the message was sharper. Stability does not come from bluster, but from the quiet edge of readiness. By day's end, the waters looked empty. But emptiness deceives. Somewhere under that expanse, attack boats moved unheard. Somewhere above, surveillance aircraft carved patient loops. Somewhere across the fleet, operators logged each second into archives that would later brief policymakers and allies alike. The record mattered. The restraint mattered more. Superpower is not measured by volume. It is measured by how quietly you can win without firing a shot. The United States Navy had preserved peace, not by stepping back, but by standing steady, holding open the door without letting it swing. And in that silence lies the lesson. True strength is not in the noise of weapons, but in the discipline to control them.